OpenShift IPI is the original installer for the OpenShift container platform. It stands for Installer Provision Installation. That's a tongue twister. No wonder nobody uses the full name. So what are the benefits of IPI? I'd say customization, easy automation, and most important to me, repeatability. Let me walk you through a complete installation process of OpenShift on Baremetal using IPI in the shortest time possible. Nope, you won't be able to install your cluster in 5 minutes like I did here. I have speeded up a bunch of it, but you can always pause this video to get what you need. Before we even start, let's go over the basics. We start with a single provisioner node, which eventually is going to run our Bootstrap VM, a minimum of 3 Baremetal control plane nodes. And if you're strapped for hardware, these could also double down as your workers. The more common configuration though would also bring the dedicated workers. The provisioner in most cases will need 2 bridges connected to 2 networks. First network is optional if your hardware supports Redfish. It's a non-routable provisioning network used to pixie boot your OpenShift nodes. The second network is a routable Baremetal network used for all the Kubernetes traffic. Finally, we need access to a DNS server and 2 A records. First for the Kubernetes API and a wildcard for the application ingress API. DHCP server is optional. Also, out-of-band routable management network is optional, but can be helpful for easier access to the cluster. Okay, your hardware is in place, all wired up. DNS is configured with 2 VIPs. Now you need to load Linux on the provisioner node. Use the method you're most comfortable with, ISO file or your automation. As for the version, I have selected the latest RHEL 8 in my cluster. The IPI Baremetal installer is 100% based on CLI commands and YAML, so you only use your mouse with this one. On the other hand, you can automate the heck out of it when you're done. We're going to start with creating a non-root user KNI. The needed commands are on the screen. Feel free to pause this video to grab them or simply refer to the official documentation listed in the description down below. Subscribe to required Red Hat channels and install packages required for the provisioner node. Additionally, I personally like to install a tmux, which helps me run all the lengthy tasks without those pesky network interruptions. Next up is libvirt configuration, which will be used for hosting a Bootstrap virtual machine. We need to define its permission and the storage pool. Again, pause this screen or refer to official documentation for details. Since my hardware only supports IPMI management, I need to create 2 bridges on my provisioner node. One for pixie booting my controllers and workers, and another one for the Kubernetes network. Here's my version of the script that creates both bridges, also in the link down below. Yes, we're done with provisioner. Now we need to configure the OpenShift cluster itself. You can do it by creating install-config.yaml. Let's go over its features. In the top section of your configuration file, you set up your DNS domain and cluster name. Then in the networking section, you want to configure address space to be used by Kubernetes and its networking type. In most cases, you will specify OVN Kubernetes, which is the newest SDN available to the platform. Next is the number of workers and controllers. In my case, I'm setting up 3 for both. The middle section of this file is the most complex, so please bear with me while we get through it. First in this section are global settings for all of the nodes, 2 virtual IPs for the APIs that have been defined earlier in our DNS, IP pools and assignments for your provisioning and Bootstrap VM network. Please note that if you use an external DHCP server, these manual IP allocations become optional. The host section is where we granularly define our OpenShift nodes, including IPMI or Redfish credentials, MAC addresses, disk that we want to boot from, and custom IP configuration. Again, some of these can go away with external DHCP server. Now rinse and repeat for the rest of your nodes. Okay, we're almost there, I promise. In the last section of the install-config.yaml, you will include your pool secret, download it from console.redhat.com. Another parameter is the SSH key that you want to inject in your nodes. This last one is important mostly for the troubleshooting. Finally, we need to download the installer itself. In my case, I'm using OCP 4.14 and the pool secret that I have copied earlier when I was configuring install-config.yaml. Woo! Congratulations, you've made it to the end. All the prerequisites are complete. It's time to kick off the installation. Create a temporary directory and copy your install config to it. Start the installer and wait for the completion. Yes, you have your OpenShift cluster installed with a good old IPI. The question is, what are you going to do with it now? As a bonus, here are some helpful commands for checking the overall health of your new shiny OCP cluster. I hope this video has been useful. Thanks for watching.